Well, shaking people, back with another reaction, back with some more Smiths. Going back to their debut album, 1984. And again, I had a sense when I started this deep dive, and this was once again based on conversations I had with my girlfriend of like 20 years ago who was very into the Smiths. I remember her telling me they're sort of, a real champion of indie rock, and they sort of, kind of forged their own path in ways that a lot of other successful bands, like 80s rock bands, didn't do, because they were part of the major label sort of industry. And I think Ron was saying, they really were, like, they sort of paved the way for indie rock of later times and so on. So yeah, once again, shout out to the information that's coming to me, and also shout out to the Smiths, short-lived as they were. But yeah, I just really respect the fact that they sort of, they were on an indie label, and they just were so popular that they became this sensation that, the major music audiences and the mainstream music industry basically had to take notice. I think that's fantastic. And once again, after only a few songs, I'm already appreciating the sort of melancholy poetry of Morrissey, also his vocal delivery. And not only did I have a sense of their sort of like, kind of floaty, like bright music mixed with dark themes kind of feel, but the last song, Miserable Lie, really blew my mind because it felt very like punk rock. There's a threshold that was passed in the song, and once that threshold was passed, it just like burst into this new song with all this like post-punk or even kind of like proper punk energy. And then his vocalizations, his vocal flourishes, and his sort of falsetto fireworks, I can't even believe it. So that last tune really blew my mind, and once again took this deep dive to a higher level than it had already been. So yeah, ready for the next one, which is called, is it Pretty Girls Make Graves? Yeah, Pretty Girls Make Graves, which I find to be hilarious. Again, it's that contrast, like Pretty Girl, it's a very like, ubiquitous and long-standing aesthetic and sort of fictional or narrative concept. The idea of just this, pristine, like she's innocent and also pretty, and so it's like this paradigm, and then you contrast that with her making graves, which is to say that like causing death or being the initiator of death, the bringer of death. So there's this like beautiful contrast of this like sweet innocent thing being essentially a grim reaper and building graves. So what it makes me think is that we may be talking about the way in which like a woman who has a certain allure or aesthetic appeal to someone might draw their attention, might cause them to take interest and to try to find a connection with this woman, but perhaps through that interaction, through the attempt to make that connection, the person who is attracted to the pretty girl will end up in a grave, for an emotional grave perhaps. So yeah, it sounds like the sort of tougher, more painful side of finding an attractive person out in the world that you want to make part of your life, but then, despite how great and beautiful they look, ultimately their trouble, their pain, their death. So yeah, we'll have to see if that's the way it's running, but that's what it makes my brain think of. And again, as I go through the Smiths catalog, even in this very early stage, I feel like maybe some of these pre-reaction title speculations will be a bit colored by like what I've already kind of understood them to be about, and just also now what in a few songs I've already heard. So yeah, it's interesting. If this was another group, maybe I wouldn't necessarily think it would go quite so strongly in that direction, but that's just where my brain's going with it. So let's get it. This is the Smiths, Pretty Girls Make Graves, from their 1984 self-titled debut album.
Along the sand, upon the bay,
Yeah.
there is a quick and easy way, you say, before you illustrate, I'd rather stay.
I feel like I have heard this one.
I'm not the man you think I am.
I remember that line.
You think I am. And sorrow's native son. You
Sorrow's
will
native
not
son?
anyone. And pretty girls make graves. have been one and could have been free. But nature played this trick on me. She wants it now, and she will not wait. But she's too rough and I'm too delicate.
She's too rough and I'm too delicate.
Another man who takes her hand and smiles.
I sympathize, my guy.
Facing where it would. I lost my faith in womanhood. I lost my faith in womanhood. I lost my faith.
I'm not sure how he means that. A very sleepy kitty right here. The guitar work. I got sort of like hypnotized by it in the last like 30-40 seconds. It's a beautiful song. Like mesmerized by like the last minute of that. The guitars just sort of took it to a different place. Fantastic. And again, like, you know, people use unique in a sort of colloquial sense, meaning like, you know, it's very, very good, and it's, you know, it is not like a lot of other people, but unique like literally means one of a kind. I actually don't think like anyone, when he gets to that sort of falsetto place and starts sort of like waving and floating with it, there's really no other voice like his. I've never heard anything like it. So yeah, that one has a bit more of a flavor that I sort of remember. And again, I do think my girlfriend used to listen to that one, maybe not as much as some of the others, including someone shouted it out. I think Charming Man is the one that she was a huge fan of. I remember hearing that song more than any other. Big Mouth Strikes Again, she used to play a lot. But I do remember hearing that because the line that I'm not the man you think I am, I do remember that line, and I like the way he delivers it. So yeah, bottom line, I think it is sort of on the level, or like running in some of the directions I was thinking in advance, although perhaps like more tightly focused. You know, it's not so much, you know, about, although I say that, you know, there was that line, I've lost faith in womanhood. So maybe it was more general. Maybe it wasn't so much targeted toward a specific woman or girl that has, you know, dug his own emotional grave, but perhaps it was a broader assessment. But yeah, bottom line, gotta listen to it some more. Do let me know if there's a lyric or two that is particularly or helpful in terms of, you know, getting at the sort of the themes of this one. But another really cool tune sonically. It just has this like, you're in this sort of like mellow, like dreamy land where painful things happen, but somehow we're still sort of floating and light with it. So yeah, bottom line, another really cool tune. Gotta listen to it some more, pick up on some of the lyrics, but do let me know what you think. I will see you next time. Peace.